Pennie Scott has been gardening with nature for more than 50 years, growing many of her foods, including raising pigs, dairy cows, ducks, and in extensive vegetable gardens, which we're trying to plant at the moment next to the pool. Well, watering hole anyway. Good luck with that one. Might have to get some tips from Pennie, I think. Now, Pennie's been deeply involved in the organic sector for around 35 years. She joined the Organic Regenerative Investment Cooperative last year, say that 3 times, collaborating with almost 300 organic grain growers across Australia, enabling them to be profitable farmers and engaging with the millions of Australians who want transparency with their food supply systems. First of all, Pennie, while many Australians experience food insecurity, is this going to be a greater concern, do you think, as the ensuing months come along?
It depends on how you look at it, who you talk to, and what each individual is willing to do about it. Now, over the past 30 years, with the rise of the duopoly supermarkets, we've been encouraged to leave it to the market, as they will always find a cheaper and most effective way to bring food. And it's a very profitable way of doing business. And while we do that, we are in their hands. We're completely tied because they choose what is going to be on their supermarket shelves. So if they want to have an imported product which is cheaper than being made in Australia, they'll do that because they're interested in profits. So we have to take some personal responsibility about how our future can look. And what do you think about making the highest quality food a priority in your life and not giving in to convenience?
Well, I think quality, isn't it funny? After our last conversation, we made a beeline to some very fresh, there weren't markets. Well, it was a market, but it was a commercial market, but it was much, much better. And what we realised, besides it having flavour, which was quite ironical because that's what you're after when you cook, the food actually filled you up. It was denser and better. Whereas you go to the supermarket, I'm not knocking the supermarket here by any stretch, but you go there and you'd buy, and we had bacon, for example, the other day. And normally you'd pay about $7.50 for a couple of lumps of bacon in there, and you throw into the air fryer, which we do because we're trying to be healthy. But it always lacked a bit of flavour, and you're always a bit hungry after it. So this time we had organic bacon. We had organic cage-free or what do they call the roaming-free hen egg thingos. Had those. Had the tomatoes, which roamed free too. They were denser, and some homemade bread. Man, oh man, I have to tell you, 1, it didn't cost us any more. 2, it was better for us. We ate less, but enjoyed it more. This is I think, what you're talking about, the discovery of either growing it yourself, popping down to the local fresh market, supporting the local growers, and eating stuff that we used to eat before we started to pump it full of all sorts of stuff.
I'm so thrilled that you and Lynn have had that experience. That is just marvellous. And trying to tell other people can be a bit frustrating because they've got no idea what your flavour buds have been doing, but they've been having a ball. And thank you for describing that extraordinary difference that you have now experienced. And isn't that a thing? It's about experiencing it. And convenience has meant that people just, I'll find something on a recipe sheet, or I'll go and buy something already pre-cooked or pre-peeled, and we'll just warm that up and have it for dinner. And the cost of convenience is such a sneaky way for people to become unwell because they get stuff that's quick, not necessarily nourishing. So food security, insecurity, it depends on how much we want to take personal responsibility and do some research into the brands, do some research into what all those numbers on the back of labels mean. Do some research about the country of origin. So until you make this a priority, because we all have the privilege really of eating 3 times a day, what we choose to put into our mouths is up to us. But there's no trustworthiness in the food system at the moment.
How urgent is the education process? Because that's what we're talking about.
Oh, we become frustrated because we find so many examples of fraud and unethical food growing. Even the greenwashing is a multi-squillion dollar business. And people will say anything and get away with it. Why is that so? Because our regulators, those who are supposed to be looking after us in fair trading and consumer law and the ACCC, because they choose not to do their jobs or fulfill their roles. The agency, the Food Safety Australia New Zealand, which is a federal government agency, honestly, what they consider to be safe is contributing to massive cases of non-communicable diseases, all these lifestyle diseases, 90% which are preventable, but because these foods, ultra-high processed foods, are labelled safe, people eat them. You know, the snack food market is massive. Ultra-high processed, I don't call it food, I call it crap, masquerading as food. But people can buy these things at supermarkets, service stations, news agencies, corner stores, even some garages have these snack foods. They just sit there and you all grab one. And it's ultra high processed food. So not only are the ingredients poisonous when you eat them constantly, but they're contributing to chronic diseases the whole time. But the availability of them makes them so easy.
Yeah, it does, and I've fallen for that trap too. But as I said, and we've always known, because I'm from the bush anyway. So my wife's from the bush. We always knew that, we needed to eat better. But you get into a habit, don't you? You have. I mean, here's something that's really odd in our days, and even in many countries around the world, they have that set time to eat, to talk to the family, to find out what happened in the day. What are your thoughts? You spend a bit of time cooking and stuff. I find and most definitely in Australia, that most people off to the supermarket, buy the packaged food, buy something quick, put it on quickly, cook it quickly so it's not done right, and then sit in front of the TV and not communicate. And that's where food and it's like a communication process. And if you go back hundreds of years, this is what drew communities together, was food, family, friends, neighbours, and wasn't that area and that area, it was all part of the same process. Tell us about your organisation, and because you're trying to you're trying to bring a lot of this back, better food, better communication, good value, and so forth.
We're actually concerned about the well-being and health of Australians. It's just innate in us. I think because we're mothers, we're people from the country, we understand how beautifully food can be grown. And these days, you just got to follow the money. And so there's a wonderful organisation called Slow Food, and it's about the conviviality of sitting down to celebrate. We always have a meal. You think of so many of the social occasions that we enjoy, and it's all around food. It's at a celebratory table. And that convenience and fast food have killed that. So at our peril, because so many of these convenience foods are 50% fat, hydrogenated fats, which are so bad for your body, 50% sugar. The food technicians in these companies are specialising in making these products hyper addictive. Now that's not helping, but when we take the time to, as you did after going to the market, you took the time to find the food. You took the time to sit down and to prepare it and then sit down and enjoy it. You made that decision, but so many people don't. And I understand the pressures of life and having children around you and everyone's hungry and you're knackered yourself. You just want to get something in their mouths. But that's at our peril with so many neurodivergent diseases now and many others.
And you'll be pleased to know that I followed that with what I was drinking. I looked for some good grape juice, and the grape juice, I was very, very chirpy about the third glass and enjoying myself apparently far too much. Let's talk about your organisation. Now, it's Organic Regenerative Investment Cooperative, which is ORICoop. Tell us about how it works, and the founder's vision and its ownership and its membership.
About 10, 11, 12 years ago, there were many more certified organic properties and owners, farmers, producing their foods in regenerative systems, which means that life is at the centre. And through non-succession, some of these older farmers decided to retire, that nobody in the family wanted to take them on. However, the collateral, the build-up of the healthy soils over years of growing foods without deadly chemicals and herbicides, insecticides and pesticides, they were likely to be lost. And so then the other owners, chemical farmers, would move in and just completely destroy all this beautiful collateral that had been carefully developed over sometimes decades. And so the Organic Regenerative Investment Cooperative, literally as the name says, was founded to purchase some of these properties so that they weren't lost into the chemical system. And that's been growing ever since then. And we've got so much damage to Australia's soils now through chemical farming. We're just getting more widespread desertification, which means that there's nothing growing there because of the old monoculture competitive paradigm. And this is leading to desertification and that bare ground. In summer, we had such a hot summer. We had a week where, it was 10 days, where the temperature during the day did not drop below 43 degrees. Now, we measure air temperature, but it's the soil temperature that actually really heats up, or it's dirt temperature by then. And that all lifts off. It adds to the heat in the atmosphere. It changes weather patterns. And so I know I'm getting a bit off topic here, but it's bare ground that causes droughts. So when we look at how organic and regenerative farmers look after their properties, one of the basic practices is 100% living ground cover 100% of the time. Now that reduces the soil temperatures and you actually can attract more rain. The more vegetative mass you have on the ground, then the more likely that these bits going up into the atmosphere, they become the nuclei for raindrops. And if it's an organic matter as the nuclei of those raindrops, then those drops will form at a lower temperature. But if it's an inorganic substance like dust, they go up higher and higher into the atmosphere, and it takes longer for that nuclei to have a raindrop gathered around it, and then it's colder. So when we have a hailstorm, think about this the next time. Think about now, where is all that inorganic nuclei material come from? And it'll be bare ground. So if we want to have more rain, fewer dry periods, we have to have more vegetation, living vegetation on the ground all the time.
Your organisation, it's even though it's a new organisation, it's basing itself on old philosophies and ideals and a lot of common sense. If someone wants to be a part of that, if someone would like to, unless you're different, I think we are always after the investor. if someone wanted to invest in what you were doing and expand this, because it is common sense, it's actually, if you were an accountant, you'd say this is just what we need because we're going to save money down the track because we're being healthy. So what we're doing is we are investing into our future. How does someone become an investor in your organisation?
Oh, well, there's masses of very useful information on our website, which is organicinvestmentcooperative.com.au. And there are options there for investing into properties or investing into the grain trust, or there's so much information there. And our food systems this is what you're talking about. So food security, let's feed Australians first. So they're not just things that we can do as a cooperative, but we need to have some government rethinking, and particularly an organisation like the National Farmers Federation, which is not just all about farmers, it's about some very, very, very large corporate sponsors, their partners. So with their bid to have $100 billion worth of agricultural exports every year, oh, good on you for feeding a few people around the world, but let's feed Australians first. Let's have a look at an import replacement scheme where so many of our foods are now imported and we don't have the capacity, sometimes even the skill sets here in Australia anymore, but there is certainly no financial incentive to provide import replacement products. We can do it, but the incentives are not there from the government or the very big agribusiness vested interests.
Again, it's all common sense, but we do need to look after our backyard first, because if we can't look after our own backyard, there's absolutely zero chance we're going to do any good anywhere else. And after all, we should be looking after, it's our family. Look at Australia as a community, it's all family. Look after that first. If somebody wants to, find out where the markets are, how they can get involved, or just more about your organisation, or just have a chat with you, how do they do that?
Look, there are some wonderful sites. The Open Food Network is one to find growers. So you can link directly with growers across Australia, the Open Food Network. There's Sustainable Table, and that's, again, another national network which has so many records of and contacts for food growers, so you can buy directly from farmers. And then with ORICoop, my email address is orca@organicinvestmentcooperative.com.au, and I'd be thrilled to have a yarn with people.
I believe that. Good on you, Pennie Scott. Thank you so much for your time.